am I just talking to myself? Not that, I particularly have a problem with that. And here's Summer. Welcome, Summer. I'm guessing that one of you would have noticed my lips moving and would have said by now, "Oh, by the way, we can't hear a thing you're saying." I'm hoping that's the case. And I'm going to proceed as if that is the case. Yes, good, good. Let's get cracking then. Let's just do the audio recorder. There we go. And ladies and any gentlemen, and anyone who identifies as neither, it is midnight in the UK. I am Mama, and the cafe is open. And we have to open today. Well, we don't have to, because nobody has to do anything. I mean, you have to breathe. There are things you do have to do, but nothing that I suggest you have to do or will have to do ever, ever, ever. Summer's taking the words right out of my mouth. And on the theme of Vance looking like democracy's lucky charm, I would just like to say with my full heart and chest, Seip munka majorosak. Seip munka majorosak. And I mean that so, so bigly. Good job, Hungary. We are so proud of you. All over the world today, there are democracies singing about how wonderful the people of Hungary are and how they've shown us how to fight for democracy. A voter turnout of around 80%. 80%. I just, it's unheard of. That is what happens when people are so downtrodden and so beaten and so oppressed that they know what it means to vote. They know how much it matters. Exactly, Summer. They've stood united. They might not all agree on what the alternative to Viktor Orban is, but they've all pretty much agreed that any fucking thing would be better than Viktor Orban. But, saying that, anybody notice what Viktor Orban did when it became clear that they were going to win, the opposition were going to win by an absolute landslide? Anybody notice? Americans, you may have forgotten what this looks like, but Viktor Orban made the call to Peter Magyar, or Peter Magyar, which means Peter Hungarian, which I love that. A guy called Hungarian is now the Prime Minister of Hungary, as he should be. It's like Johnny English becoming the Prime Minister of the UK. But I digress. He did. He conceded, Summer. Yep, you're absolutely right. He made the call to Peter Magyar and said, whatever he said. I can't even hazard a guess because as you can see clearly and hear, I don't speak Hungarian, but I try. Just and in no with no greater thought process than I would really like to tell the people of Hungary, I made a little bit of effort to try and tell you what a great job I thought you did in your own language, just to show you I'm not just saying it as something to say. I actually had to go to Google Translate, and then I had to go to one of the AI tools and say, I'm just not hearing this. Can you please break it down into chunks for me and tell me how to pronounce it properly? Because I don't want to insult anybody. So I hope I didn't do too bad a job, and that any Hungarians who happen to have fallen into our little pond here, I hope you're all too pissed to even care what this silly little British woman is saying. I hope you are having the best night of your lives, and you absolutely deserve it, you little heroes, all of you. So, shall we get on? Let's do it. I don't think we really need to waste time talking about the nonsense. If we can't play in your backyard, we're going to stop anyone else from playing in your backyard. It's just, I just, somebody explain it to me. Explain how this 27D chess works. That what we're demanding is the Strait of Hormuz be open absolutely, completely, and free trade be boats be allowed to come and go freely with no restrictions. And if you don't let us have that, then what we'll do is we'll stop the boats that you've already stopped coming and going freely, and we'll stop a few more. Because I'm not sure we've pissed enough countries off in the world. I mean, seriously, they're going to stop Chinese ships going into the Strait of Hormuz, are they? Well, good fucking luck. I'm sure President Xi is just like, okay, yeah, no, that seems fair. Yeah, no, we won't argue. No, we'll just barge our way through it. Is this war not big enough, Donald? Is it not big enough? Have you just absolutely lost your last freaking sense? Assuming that you had some, which is a stretch, I grant you. Jeez, hey Laura. I was just talking about you earlier. Anywho, it's not just me asking the question as to whether or not Grandpa's gone gaga. I mean, I've been asking the question for quite a while, but there are some new voices, aren't there? Some new echoes on the wind. Yes. Oh, Se Munka Majorosko means good job, hungry, something like that anyway. But yes, as I say, welcome, Janice. In you come, grab a comfy chair or a beanbag, wrap yourself in a blanket and grab an adult beverage or a nice milky drink. And I will begin. So we were just talking about the lemon lunatic's latest lunacy, with, shutting the thing that Iran already shut several weeks ago. But fine, no, if that's what keeps him happy. And me asking the question, has he absolutely gone batshit crazy now? Is there nothing left where his grey matter used to sit? And as I say, not the only one asking this question, but some of the voices asking this question are new, let's say. Maybe not unexpected, maybe not unsurprising, but new. They haven't been saying these things before. So, is this the new art of the grift, or are the seas changing? We have to look at it in two parts because we've got the early contingent and then the tag-alongs. So tonight we're going to look at the OGs, the original grifters, and then we are going to move on to the hangers-on, the pick-me's in Tuesday's episode. So I hope you can come and join me again on Tuesday, same time, same place. So where would we start? Well, there are a few places, but it makes sense to start at the beginning. So before we get into tonight's subject, I want to ask you something. In the last few weeks, something quite extraordinary has been happening in American politics. People who spent years, in some cases the better part of a decade, building their entire brand, their income, their public identity around the man we call king. Sorry, no, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And those people are suddenly, publicly, loudly turning on him, it seems. So what's going on? Alex Jones, proper original grifter. I mean, and he is the grifter to school all other grifters. He is where the grift really hits the fan. He has got to the point where he's weeping on air, calling Trump a dementia risk. We've got Tucker Carlson, the guy who lost his job basically by standing by the lies Trump was spewing, suggesting Trump might be the Antichrist. Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Mrs. MAGA, the woman who wore a Trump won face mask on the House floor, is calling for the 25th Amendment. And then you've got people like Candace Owens calling him a genocidal lunatic, not mincing her words. And can I just say, before we really get into the OGs, the original grifters, there is some content tonight that is really quite offensive, because unfortunately these people are really quite offensive and they've said some really quite offensive things. And to paint the full picture, the where they were, where are they now, what's happened, you need to know where they were. And it was fucking the inner circles of hell, in my opinion. And I'm not saying they've moved anytime recently, but, you know, there are some really unpleasant things that these people have said that were as far from the actuality as you can possibly get. See the message, faux rouge, pas de feu vert pour Laura Paluma. Pas de feu vert. Oh, Laura, yes, faux rouge, absolutely, 100%, Laura, faux rouge. Yeah, long story. Anywho, hey Nick, come on in, get comfy. We haven't really jumped into it, we've just set the scene. So that was your warning. There is some unpleasant content because I am reporting what these people have said, and it's unpleasant. So what's Trump's initial reaction to some of these people maybe being a little more critical than they would have in the past? Well, concise as ever, Trump's response was a 485-word tirade on Truth Social this week, calling all four of them, and I want you to hear this properly, low IQ nut jobs with third-rate podcasts. Which, to be fair to Trump, is the most accurate thing I've actually ever heard him say. So, you know, we'll come back to that though. The question I want you to sit with across both parts of this two-parter, because I'm not going to answer it for you. I don't do that. We don't judge. We don't make judgments. We just bring receipts. We offer you the information and then you do with it as you will. This is school, not prison. Are the seas shifting? Is that what we're witnessing? Are these genuine come to Jesus moments in real time in front of our eyes? People finally looking at what they helped build and feeling actual remorse. Or, as some might suggest, I couldn't possibly say which side I come down on. Are we simply observing the rats finding a new ship now theirs is sinking? I expect both, bits of each. Somewhere in the middle lieth the truth. Is it an attack of conscience, or is it just another grift? Here are the facts. See if you can make head nor tail of it, because I just am not sure. And I feel more strongly in one direction for some people, more strongly in the other direction for others. But essentially, all of these people have behaved extremely badly. And until I hear every single one of them apologize for the heinous things they've said and done, they're not redeemed in my eyes. And I just don't care. Great, great. If you're bringing people along to a different way of thinking, that might mean the poor American people get their democracy back. Crack on. I'm all for it. But you as a person, let's just say we ain't never going down the pub together for any reason or any beverage. Anywho, so we're going to look at the con, the original con. Who built the machine? The architect, the radicalizer, the woman inside the house, and the man who handed them the keys to a mansion of millions. Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Melania Trump, Joe Rogan. Yeah, that's where we are. I'm so sorry. In part 2, we're going to have a look at those that rode the waves all the way to fame, fortune, and the edge of a cliff. But tonight, the builders. So let's get into it. At the beginning, even before Trump, even before the MAGA, Make America Great Again movement, before the Groypers and the podcast bros and the Truth Social rants, there was one Alex Jones. Now, Jones has been doing this act since the 1990s. He started on public access television in Austin, Texas, and over 30 years built InfoWars into one of the most visited political websites in America. The template was simple, and yes, it was a grift. Take something simple like a government scandal, a genuine grievance that people could connect with, and wrap it in so much apocalyptic nonsense that by the time you got to the actual point, you were also believing the water supply was turning the frogs gay. Yeah, an actual thing they claimed. I mean, it was an actual thing they claimed. It wasn't an actual thing. There are no gay frogs because of the water. Just want to clear that up. InfoWars itself wasn't really a news operation, however much Alex Jones wanted to dress it up as such. It was a supplement shop with a broadcasting arm. It was a 24/7 infomercial. The conspiracy content drove the traffic. The traffic sold Brain Force Plus, Turbo Force, Super Male Vitality, Billy Big Balls, bullets, I don't know. Products with names that sounded like they were invented by someone who's never actually spoken to a human woman. The more outrageous the content, the more people visited the site and watched, the more people watching, the more supplements they bought. It was a perfect closed loop of grift. Paranoia meets protein powder. And it worked. He was worth billions. So how did he get caught up with one Donald Judas Trump? In December 2015, Donald Trump appeared on InfoWars and told Jones on camera, and I quote, "Your reputation is amazing. I will not let you down." And he didn't. Trump spent his entire first campaign echoing all of Alex Jones's talking points almost verbatim. Deep state, rigged elections, globalist conspiracies. Jones didn't just support Trump. Jones was in many ways the prototype. He proved there was an audience for this nonsense, and Trump just scaled it beyond all imagination. So what are some of Alex Jones's greatest hits of bullshit? And here again, I offer the warning, there is some troubling content. For years, probably the thing that I knew him most for, Alex Jones told his audience that the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. God rest their poor little souls. That 20, 6 and 7-year-old children did not die. Yeah, they did. And their poor families have had to live with it ever since. That their grieving parents were, in his words, crisis actors performing for the cameras. He insisted that the whole thing was staged by the government to justify gun control. Unhinged really doesn't come close. The poor families of those little boys and girls were subjected to years of harassment. They had death threats. They got abuse from Jones's followers. One family had to move house 7 times to get away from it. They really were just appallingly treated, disgustingly treated, because Alex Jones had some protein powder to sell, basically. In my opinion, allegedly. The courts eventually caught up with him. Juries in both Connecticut and Texas found him liable for defamation. And the combined judgment was a lovely, delicious $1.4 billion. Jones, being the decent sort that he is, immediately filed for bankruptcy and launched an appeal. In October 2025, the Supreme Court declined his appeal. The judgment stands. The families are still waiting for the money. Well, there's a shocker. The man who's all about exposing the truth doesn't feel like doing right by the families he so maliciously defamed. Okay, it's a choice. The Onion, the satirical news website, actually won an auction to buy InfoWars and turn it into a parody of itself, which would have been the most fitting ending imaginable. And I was so thrilled when I heard that. But unfortunately, the bankruptcy judge threw out the sale on procedural grounds. So, hey ho, Jones is still on the air, still selling his supplements, still hasn't paid a penny to the Sandy Hook families. Because of course he hasn't. And that's not allegedly, that's just counting. Other greatest hits by Mr. Jones? 9/11 was an inside job. The Boston Marathon bombing was staged, which is odd because when you've got 2 perfectly good immigrants, why wouldn't you blame them? I would imagine would be his thinking. That's not a suggestion. And the government puts chemicals in the waters too. And it is a direct quote from Mr. Jones, turn the frogs gay. Because of course they would. Who wouldn't want to turn the frogs gay? I don't ask for what reason. Anybody who's got a sensible suggestion why the government would want gay frogs, please put it in the comments because I'm still baffled. Anyway, the happy frogs. Yeah, not that kind of gay. Sorry, Summer. Different kind of gay. If they're putting something in the water that's making the frogs happy, I will drink more water. Oh, yeah. Anyway, that takes us back to emotional Alex Jones. Overcome. He was so distraught, calling Donald Trump, the man he spent decades championing, a dementia risk who must be removed from office. He cited Trump's approval rating, which I think, may or may not be significant here, falling to 33% and said, quote, Trump is in free fall, and that means we are in free fall for the midterms. Woohoo! A little bit of hope, everybody. Sorry. I may be showing my colors there, but it's okay because I'm only American adjacent and my adjacency is the other side of a very big pond. So I don't really count. You don't have to listen to me. Just listen to the information because that's all proper stuff. My opinion is just my opinion. And, at the moment, we're still allowed to have one of those. So let's keep following in Hungary's footsteps and keep it that way. I've seen an awful lot of calls on the threads, because we don't bother with the Twitter because it's all idiots. But on the threads, I must have seen at least 20 different posts saying, could JD Vance please come to the UK and start campaigning for Nigel Farage and reform, because we could really do some of it with some of that influence, just, to be on the safe side. So yeah, JD, come on over, mate. But please don't stay. Anyway, back to Alex Jones. He even went as far as posting on Truth Social, calling for Trump's cabinet to, quote, 25th Amendment his ass. And he described Trump's Iran rhetoric as the behavior of, and again I quote, oh, sorry, I've got an itch. An unhinged supervillain from a Marvel comic movie. And I think that is pretty unfair to Marvel supervillains, because they really aren't on the same level as this lunatic, in my opinion, allegedly. So the man who owes 1.4 billion with a B dollars to the families of murdered children, who was begging his audience to buy supplements to keep him on air, is now weeping about the man he helped elect. Are we seeing shifting seas? Are we seeing Jesus? Or are we just seeing rats? That's the question you need to think about as we move on to our next candidate. The lovely, fragrant, very bizarre Mr. Nick Fuentes, the radicalizer. Now, I need to be clear before I get into this one. Nick Fuentes is different from the others on tonight's list because he's not a traditional grifter. He's not selling supplements or chasing cable news contracts. He's not doing it for the same kind of reasons that the others are. Thank you, Amy. Yes, that seems like a sufficient amount of rats at a minimum. He's far more dangerous in some ways. He's the person who moved the goalposts, from what I can see. He's the reason the Overton window isn't just wide open, it's been taken off its hinges and thrown into the back garden. Nick Fuentes is 27 years old. He started live streaming in his parents' basement in Illinois in 2017 because, of course, he did. Because it was easier than talking to girls. Allegedly, in my opinion. He's now one of the most influential figures on the American far right, and that really should terrify all of us. He's a white nationalist. He's a Holocaust denier. He's an anti-Semite, a misogynist, and a self-described Catholic nationalist who has said he wants America to have something like, and I quote, Taliban rule in a good way. Let that settle. His followers are called groypers. Yes, they are. Because, of course, they are. He said on camera, and I quote, Hitler is awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. Okay, Nikki. Alrighty. On a Piers Morgan interview, when asked how many Jewish people died in the Holocaust, he replied, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number? 7? 6 million? Something like that? 8 million? He had told his followers beforehand that this would be his deliberate strategy: mock the question, dismiss the numbers. In February 2025, this cretin complained his studio was too hot and said on air, and this big warning, anybody of Jewish descent, this is horrific. Quote, "It's 6 million degrees. It feels like an oven in here." Yes, he did. I'll let that one sit. And I will apologise on his behalf, because what a word I can't say. But, see you next Tuesday. Women. He's got some interesting opinions about us. Yes, he has, ladies. He said the optimal age for a wife is 16. Oh my God, I would have fucking killed him when I was 16. That women are baby machines. No, sorry. No, definitely not. In February 2026, he said, and I remember this, and I remember being appalled at the time, but not surprised. Every woman and girl must, quote, "go to the breeding gulags," after which, quote, "we will determine which ones are acceptable for release." Comparing it to, in his words, quote, "just like Hitler imprisoned gypsies, Jews, communists." Oh yeah, he's a peach. This is not fringe content. This is a man with millions of followers who dined with the President of the United States. It doesn't get much more mainstream. So when was this dinner then, I hear you ask? Well, you already know, you follow this stuff because you have to. November 2022. 1 week after the Orange Oath announced his 2024 presidential campaign, much to all of our horror, Fuentes had dinner at Mar-a-Lago, brought there by, oh yes, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. Sources present at the dinner said Trump declared he liked Fuentes, and Fuentes called Trump my hero. Oh, that nice. Trump's response afterwards, well, funny, he said he didn't know who Fuentes was. He never condemned his ideology, though, not once. Yes, Amy, you have a question, or somebody needs to question me? I've got an itch, so I'll give you a moment. Ouch! My headphones push my glasses into my skull. It's as painful as it sounds. Yeah, I know. Amy, do you have a question? Do you want to write it in the chat? Do you want to ask me? Is that why UK denied Kanye West his concert? The UK denied Kanye West his concert because of his horrific anti-Semitic views, and it was decided that he do be not a nice person, and he do be not coming in because of his extreme opinions. And hence, that's why he ain't coming, and his silly festival is cancelled. And we all say, fuck you to whoever booked him. He is an unwell man. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not one of those millions and millions of unwell people around the world who don't go around upsetting people. But, takes all types. So how did Fuentes become mainstream? In October 2025, Tucker Carlson hosted Fuentes for a friendly 2-hour interview watched by 5 million people. During it, Fuentes described organized Jewry, that's a quote, as the main obstacle to conservative politics. A Manhattan Institute poll around the same time found 37% of Republicans, are you ready? More disgustingness, believed the Holocaust was, quote, greatly exaggerated, or did not happen as historians describe? Fuentes' response to this statistic? We won! Holocaust deniers won! Well done. Your mother must be so proud. Is it too late to... Yeah, probably. I'm not going to go where I was because we don't believe in any kind of aggression or violence. We just wish certain people didn't have the amount of attention that they do because they tend to cause bad things to happen. And we don't want bad things to happen to anybody. We'd really like it if we could all just get along, but 25 minutes to Glen. Wow. Oh, yes, it's early, isn't it? Because it's Sunday. Okay, I will crank the pace up a little. So that's Fuentes, his origin story. Where is he now? Well, in 2026, January, just a couple of months ago, he was filmed at a Miami nightclub dancing to Kanye West's song Heil Hitler, I apologize, alongside absolute scrote Andrew Tate and other far-right figures. The Miami Beach mayor subsequently apologized and banned him from ever returning to the venue. Well done, you. In late 2024, Fuentes assaulted a 59-year-old Jewish neighbor, Marla Rose, at his front door, pepper spraying her and taking her phone. And there's some kind of door cam footage because I've seen it and it's horrific. He received a court-ordered apology requirement. In March 2026, rather than appearing in court himself, he sent his lawyer with a typed note. Oh, but it gets better. He then demanded the note back before anyone could photograph it and publish it. 75 hours of community service and anger management. That's accountability if your name's Nick Fuentes. This week? Well, little Nicky's had a little bit of a change of heart. He told his followers to vote Democrat in the 2026 midterms. Oh, yes, he did. He said, quote, I cannot wait for the Democrats to take the House. Yeah. Now, riddle me that one, folks. Not because he's had a change of heart, obviously, but because he wants the Democrats to subpoena and investigate the Trump administration. He also declared the Iran ceasefire, quote, a complete and total US defeat. Well, yeah. Welcome to our world. So the man who said he wants the Taliban rule in America in a good way is now rooting for the Democrats. Not because he's changed, but because squeak, 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 squeak. Just going to leave that there. Amy can do the little emojis in the chat. You decide, though. Don't be influenced by us just because we think he's a horrible human being. Now, somebody who's really been in the news over the last couple of days is Miss Melania. Now, what's she been up to? Well, we'll come to that at another time because that really needs a lot of looking in. Thank you, Amy. Lots of rats. Nice. Yes. Sorry, any rats who are offended by being compared to Nick Fuentes. I do apologize. I appreciate that. That was unfair and unkind. Yes, I have all sorts of opinions about Melania's little performance, but I think we're all open to the suggestion that it's not completely unrelated to Amanda Ungaro getting a lot more vocal, and we'll leave it at that. Because some of the survivors have said, what the fuck? Why is it always on our shoulders? Why are you asking Congress to investigate? Why not, investigating people like the FBI, the DOJ? And then I did see one of the survivors saying nice things about Melania. So I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not one of them. I don't get an opinion on this, really. It's about the survivors and those that didn't survive. Anyhow, to be clear, Melania Trump, who is very, very litigious And really, I mean, darling, you could sell my kids and you still wouldn't get an awful lot from me. She has not, though, been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with the Epstein investigation. There is no evidence being presented of any criminal conduct on her part. We deal with facts, and those are the facts. But we also discuss things. So April the 9th, just a day or two ago, 2026, the First Lady of the United States of America made a surprise unannounced statement from the White House Grand Foyer. No questions from reporters, reading what was clearly a script written by a legal team, mispronouncing words like trivial and convicted as she went. She opened with, quote, "The lies linking me with the disgraced Jeffrey Epstein need to end today." She said she was not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. Okay, if you say so, Melania. And she described her email to convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell as nothing more than casual correspondence, a trivial note. That was trivial, by the way. So let's have a look at that trivial note, because I'm not Melania, Laura. I just do a really good impression of her. So calm down. Yes, because that trivial note was released in the Epstein files by the DOJ earlier this year. And the email dated October 2002, released in the Epstein files, reads, "Dear G, how are you? Nice story about JE in NY Mag. You look great on the picture. I know you're very busy flying all over the world. How was Palm Beach? I cannot wait to go down. Give me a call when you're back in NY. Have a great time. Love, Melania." Maxwell replied, addressing her as Sweet Pea. JE, obviously Jeffrey Epstein. The NY Mag story was New York Magazine profile of Epstein, which Melania was praising. To Epstein's chief accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. In 2002, the year that Ghislaine Maxwell was actively recruiting and trafficking victims. And we don't have to say allegedly or in my opinion, because she got convicted for it. Them's is facts. Melania also insisted twice in her statement that this was a reply to Ghislaine Maxwell's email. But the subject line reads, "Hi," indicating she initiated the exchange. There's no original email from Maxwell being produced. She started it from what we have seen. The trivial note, signed Love Melania, initiated by Melania from what we can see, praising the profile of a convicted paedophile to his convicted sex trafficking accomplice, who called her Sweet Pea. Casual correspondence. Okay. Maybe. We don't know, do we? So we're just going to throw that out there and say maybe. So here's why Melania belongs in part one, the builders of this mess. Because the grift at the top requires someone to make it look legitimate, somebody elegant, someone who speaks 5 languages and wears Valentino, someone who can stand next to the chaos and make it look like choice rather than catastrophe. Melania Trump famously wore a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?" to visit detained migrant children. Who the fuck told her that was a good idea? These children had been separated from their parents at the border, and many of whom just floated off into the ether, never to be reunited with their families. Nice. She sold NFTs of herself. She published a memoir. She made a movie. She stood on stage at convention after convention. And there is a confirmed photograph just as you guys in the chat have been pointing out, released in the Epstein files of Donald Trump, Melania Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell together at Mar-a-Lago in February 2000. Trump himself, in a 2002 New York Magazine interview, said of Epstein, quote, "He's a lot of fun to be with. He even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. Ha ha fucking ha, Donnie." Sorry, that's my own editorial. He didn't say that. And Melania Trump now presents herself standing in the same grand foyer where her husband addresses the nation about the war that they're at with Iran, reading from a legal team script, telling us the email she initiated, as far as we can see, signed Love Melania to a convicted sex trafficker, was nothing more than a trivial note. She had the cheek to call for a public hearing for Epstein's survivors. The survivors themselves responded to this. That shifts the burden back onto the people who've already shown the most courage in this entire saga. The Epstein survivors are not fooled, and neither are we. And they deserve an opinion on this, in my humble opinion. Rats, come to Jesus. Finally, for this week, because we've only got 15 minutes to Glenn, and because it's the last one. That's what finally means. Yay. Joe Rogan, the gateway drug. Right, so Joe Rogan, little different because unlike the others that we've looked at already tonight, Rogan's never he's never claimed to be a political figure. He's a comedian. He's a UFC commentator who happens to run the most listened to podcast on earth. And precisely that is what made him most valuable. He is the most valuable asset the MAGA movement ever had going in to 2024. Just days before the presidential election in October 2024, Rogan hosted Trump on his podcast for 3 hours, then endorsed him to an audience of approximately 14 million subscribers. Trump thanked him by name in his election night victory speech because he was responsible to a large part. Rogan positioned himself as a brave, independent, unfiltered alternative to mainstream media. Just two blokes talking, no agenda, no script, which was, of course, the most effective kind of political messaging possible because it didn't feel like political messaging at all. He handed Trump an audience of millions of young men who thought they were too smart to be influenced by propaganda, and they were wrong. And Rogan handed them over. Hey, Marcia Grace. We're nearly finished for tonight, but we're back on Tuesday. So, where's Rogan now? What's his opinion on the mental man in the White House? March 2026, on his podcast, Mr. Joe Rogan said, I quote, "It just seems so insane based on what he ran on. He ran on no more wars. End these stupid, senseless wars. And then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it. This is why a lot of people feel betrayed." End quote. He also suggested Trump launch the Iran war to distract from the Epstein files. He suggested, not me, I have no opinion on the subject. And if I did, that would be fine because it would be protected. First Amendment, and, we have freedom of expression in the UK. He also questioned Trump's age, the age that's very similar to Joe Biden's age, that age. He said, quote, "You're making decisions for babies and children and the future of the world, and you've only got 10, maybe 10 years left on Earth if everything goes great. Oh, please, God, don't let it be that long, please. If there is a God up in heaven, or gods, whoever you are, just, help us out." And this one I particularly loved because, of course, I did. He called Trump's MAGA base And I quote, fucking dorks. No argument from me there. This is from the man who told those same dorks that Kamala Harris was the candidate of endless wars. Joe Rogan isn't a villain. He's the cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake contrarianism for critical thinking and a podcast studio for a conscience. Shifting seas, rats finding a new ship. So, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Melania Trump, Joe Rogan, the architects, the radicalizer, the elegant facade, the gateway. Between them, they built a machine. Jones gave it the template. Fuentes gave it the ideology. Melania gave it the veneer of legitimacy. And Rogan gave it an audience of millions of people who thought they were too smart to fall for this shit. And the machine ran. And it elected a president. Kinda. But now it's making a noise it's never made before. And this is exciting, folks. So we're finished with this. It's making a grinding, clanking, something is very wrong kind of a noise, a grating. Urgh. And the people who built it are backing away with their hands up saying, we didn't know, we didn't mean it, we were just asking questions. Yeah, and this is what happens. In part 2, we're going to have a look at the people who didn't build the machine so much as rode it. So we've got Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they rode it, and she in particular, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she rode that machine so hard and so faithfully that she was still cheering for it as it went off the cliff. Part 2, we're calling The Mark, because in every con, there is a con artist and there's the person who falls for it. But sometimes the most fascinating thing is when the person who fell for it turns out to have been running their own con all along on the rest of us. Not us, obviously, but you know what I mean. So we'll finish there so that you've got time to go and have a pee, put the kettle on quickly, grab another adult beverage, do what you got to do before Glenn Kirshner. Because, I feel he may have stuff to say today and we're all in for that. If you've got thoughts, arguments, receipts of your own, you know where to find me on Substack. You can find the show in all the usual places. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. It will be up on YouTube. And please come back for part 2. Same time, same place. Tuesdays, that's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, midnight British summertime. The believers are something to behold. So, I haven't even thought of a prayer for tonight. Is it Q&A? Oh, that's good, because I didn't have any big Q&As for Glenn tonight. And I don't have a prayer popping to the top of my head. So I will pray for those who want to join me. Anyone else, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure as always, and we'll see you next time. For those who do, please get into a place where you can feel a connection with the higher power that works in your life, and think about those wonderful men, women, and children in Hungary who are just living their best lives in this one moment. You have another Mary Oliver. Sorry, I got distracted. Back to the people of Hungary. They're living their best lives because they stood up. They got together. They united and they fought against tyranny and oppression. Tyranny and oppression that had lasted for 16 years. This fucker hasn't been back for 16 months. Let's show him. Let's show him the door and gently edge him out of it. And God, we ask in your infinite wisdom, whoever you are, male, female, neither, multiple, whoever's up there looking down on all of us, please give us the strength to stay together, to stay united, and to stay strong because this matters. Democracy is important. And we are here for the fight. And that would be the passive, peaceful fight, not the nasty, punchy, fisticuff kind of fight, because we don't do that and we don't encourage it either. So, God, please protect us for the duration of the fight, however long it may be. Give us strength when we need it, because sometimes it is fucking exhausting. Oh, and by the way, none of the gods that I speak to mind what language I choose to use. They're just glad I talk to them. And listen, more importantly. So yeah, keep showing us what way we should be going, God, and keep directing us along a righteous path so that we can be there for other people and we can be the good in this world and we can spread that good around and hopefully dilute the evil to such levels that it's barely able to turn frogs gay. Amen. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Look forward to getting on to the proper grifters. Not that these lot aren't, obviously, but the more fun ones, the mega influencers, and see what they're all about on Tuesday. So, my darlings, with that, it's all we've got time for tonight. You've still got a couple of minutes to run over to Glenn. Quickly make yourselves more comfortable. But for tonight, I'm afraid the cafe is now closed. Good night.